What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Daddy Fino Flash podcast featuring your homies. Obviously, it's me, Daddy Fino, baby. And of course, my co host, the one and only JT Flash. JT, say what's up to the people.
What's up?
What's up? I like that. I like that. Usually you say hey or some other stuff you say.
Switching it up,
I like that. We gotta change things up, man.
Yeah.
Can't get consistent. I understand. I mean, can't get stagnant, I guess. That's the word. I understand. I like that. So JT, what we got today for the people, man? I hear we got something. We got something new for.
Yeah. So the last episode or ranking episode of the Daddy Fino Flash podcast was the top 5 NBA teams from the 2000s, which was we mostly had the same teams on that one. There was a little bit of a debate, but
Yeah,
now
I
on
do.
this episode we're gonna do the same thing, but with the NFL. And I think this is where things are going to get a little crazy.
Okay.
I think we're going to have some teams on here that should be on here and maybe some teams on here that shouldn't be on here. So it'll be interesting. But I'm going to let you go first this time. I went first last time, so we'll switch it up.
You gonna switch it up on me? All right, man. All right. So, JT. Well, guess I'm gonna have to switch it up on you too.
Okay, here we go.
And this is how we're gonna switch it up because usually my list, I'm more confident in my list. Okay. This time I'm actually gonna give you an advantage. My advantage to you is I'm actually not 100% confident in this list I made, man. I gotta admit to you. I think that if I heard this list, I would disagree with it, and it's my own damn list. But
I know I'm going to disagree with it, so if that makes you feel any better, so
good, but you know what though? As many times as I went and was trying to make this list, I kept coming back to this one, and I don't know why. But I'm just gonna go with it. We're gonna see how we're gonna compare it to yours, and we're just gonna get the party started. So how about we do it? Number 5. At number 5, I have the 2013 Denver Broncos. Okay.
okay.
At number 4, I have the 2013 Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
Okay. At number 3, I have what they used to call the greatest show on turf, the 2001 St. Louis Rams. Yeah.
Okay.
And number 2, I have the 2007 Indianapolis Colts. I mean, no, wait. I'm sorry. No, yeah, 2007 Indianapolis Colts. Okay. And then at number 1, and this hurts. This hurts me so bad, but I have to say it. At number 1, the greatest team from the year 2000 and now. It's the 2007 New England Patriots. That is my list. It's the list I kept coming back to. I don't know how you feel about it. I am very, very, very curious as to what you think about it. But that's my list. I'm going to let you go, and let's see how it is.
Well, we only have 2 teams in of the same. I see what you did there. You have a lot of offense on your list, but me,
I do.
I like defense. I believe in that old saying, defense wins championships. So I'll read you my list, starting with number 5.
Okay.
And even though what I just said kind of contradicts a little bit, I'll give my reasons why in a minute. But I have the 2004 New England Patriots at number 5.
Okay.
I have the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 4.
Okay.
I have the 2013 Seattle Seahawks at number 3.
Okay.
Then I have the 2000 Baltimore Ravens at number 2.
You said 2000. Okay.
Yep. And
All
then
right.
I have the like you, the 2007 New England Patriots at number 1.
All right. So we actually have okay. See, and looking at that, you brought up a great point. Before you even mentioned your list, you said I went for the offensive teams, you went for the defensive teams, and I can see that through our list, and that's a very interesting point because I think in football, it's how you build your team. You know, you can build it in various ways. You can go for a more balanced team, a more offense oriented, defensive oriented. You know, and I think that was the toughest thing about creating this list is because it's hard to really determine, you know, who's really better. You know, will that great offense overcome a great defense? In some cases it has, some cases it hasn't, you know. But I like your list. I do like it. I will tell you this: your 2004. Let's just start with number 5. Let's start comparing our teams now.
All right.
Your 2014, the 2004 Patriots at number 5. I did have them on. I did have them on one of my cuts to make this list. Um, that team, if I remember right, they went 11-5. Uh, that was Brady's 3rd Super Bowl,
They
correct?
they went 14-12 that year. 2004, they went 14-12.
Oh, I'm sorry. 14-2. You mean?
Yeah, 14-2. Sorry. Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm mixing years. Then I'm sorry. They went. Yeah, they did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they went 14-2. I'm thinking of another year. I think it was 2001. I'm thinking. Yeah, it was 2001. I was thinking they went 11. I'm sorry. So yeah, they went 14-2 that year. They beat. Let me see. That was the year. Oh no, was that the year they beat the Panthers?
No, they beat Donovan McNabb and Tio's Eagles that
Okay,
year.
Panthers was the year before. Okay, um, so they had a. Whew, I hate that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hated that team. I rooted so hard for Donovan that year. I mean Brady. That was his 3rd championship in what 4 years? But they won one, and then didn't make it, and then they won back to back. Correct?
Yeah.
Right. So that was his 3rd Super Bowl. That was when he basically made Hall of Fame that year. When you think about it. I mean they had an excellent defense that year too.
I think they were 9, but what and I don't hate to interrupt you. I just wanted to say what I think is most impressive about this team.
No, go ahead.
They
Go
they
ahead.
actually didn't have a good defense that year. I mean, they had I think. Well, no, they did. I'm sorry, they did have a good defense. But what was good about it, or what I thought was impressive about it, was this was kind of the first time in a long time that you saw a defensive player play offense and actually do something on offense, and you saw an offensive player play defense and actually.
Troy Brown, correct?
Yeah, Troy Brown, Mike Vrabel.
Yep.
He he did that. But I'm not saying Bill Belichick hasn't done this since then, because he has, but they haven't had success with it. And a lot of players, especially today, they only play their position. There's only a few other that come to mind. Like Dion. Dion played through all 3 sides of the ball sometimes and things like that. But this was just kind of from 2000 and now a point in time where they kind of, they might not have had the most talented roster, but
Right.
they got it done. So that's why I put them at 5. But
I mean, that's a great team. I mean, just I'm looking at it right now. At one point, so the Patriots they forced 11 turnovers in just 3 games in the playoffs. I mean, right there, that's amazing, right there. And they only turned it over once on their side. So it's 11-1 turnover ratio in the playoffs. I mean, there's no wonder they won the Super Bowl. Now they only won it by 3. You know, so I don't think Brady should get all the credit. I think we need to start giving some credit to Vinatieri, but that's just me. What do I know? I'm just a Jets fan. I don't know that much about football. We Jets. I don't think Jets even know much about football. But whatever. I'm just a Jets fan. But yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with you on that one. I gotta agree with your number 5. What you think about my number 5, 2013 Broncos?
So I didn't want to put 2 of the teams that played in the Super Bowl from the same year on my top 5 list, but that was one that I really was. It's on my outside my list looking in. That was, Peyton Manning had just come back from injury to he had been in Denver, and he went off that year. Went off.
Yep. He broke touchdown record.
Yep.
55 touchdowns. I think that originally belonged to Brady, because Brady I think had the 50 touchdowns. He was 55-10 if I could be wrong, but I believe it was 55-10. I mean,
he had a hell of a season.
It was one of the best quarterback seasons of all time. I want to say I know he definitely threw for 5,000. I want to say it was like 5,500 or close to 5,500 yards.
Yeah,
I mean,
had a stacked receiving core.
Demarius Thomas,
Wes Welker.
God, it was he had great. I mean, he even had great running backs. He also had Eric Decker. I mean, Eric Decker. This is when Decker was actually good because now he's just terrible. It's really bad how quarterbacks make receivers look so great. We think they're good players until they go to another team and they're just terrible.
But your number 4 team and my number 3 team, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, is why I didn't put them on this list, because that might be, if not the most dominant defense to date, one of the most dominant defenses to date that I remember ever seeing. Completely made Peyton Manning look he looked like he wasn't even ready to play that game from the first snap in the Super Bowl.
You're right. You're definitely right about that. I mean, the Legion of Boom, 3 All-Pros all in the back. I mean, you got Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and then you have Richard Sherman. I mean, can you get any better at the safety and corner position? I mean, and then to have them all on the same team, and then you have a dominant front 7. It's the Legion of Boom was that it was really special to watch that team, to watch that defense, and just to tear that Broncos offense to pieces. I mean, the way they did it, it was.
What'd they win? 43-8, I think.
Yep, 43-8.
And
I mean, it was amazing what they did.
Let's be honest, because we had a debate a few episodes back where we put Peyton Manning as the number 2 quarterback in this time period. Right. I myself didn't think that, even as great as they were only going to hold Peyton Manning to 1 touchdown. I understood they were probably going to force some turnovers, but I would have given Peyton Manning more than 1 touchdown, even against the great Legion of Boom, especially with the year he was having and the weapons he had. So,
Well, it's like we mentioned. I mean, Peyton Manning, that was arguably the best quarterback season of all time. Arguably. You gotta. I would definitely agree with you on that. You gotta put. I would definitely at least. I would have spotted him 14.
Yeah.
At least 14. I would have said he would have got 2 touchdowns, and then they would have somehow pulled off another touchdown. But it's like you said to start it off. You went with a defense wins championships mentality, and that looks like. I mean, it looks like it pays dividends. You look at our teams, or look at my teams. My top 5 list. I think. Let me see. One, two. Only one team on my list won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, so and all the teams that I picked, they lost to either a great defense or
Had aspects of a great defense. They might not have been number one, but
exactly.
they were dominant when it counted.
So I mean, that's the one thing about football. I mean, and that's why it's really hard to make this list because it's all in one game. It's basically one game. So it's not like it's a series where you get to say, all right, if I play bad this game, it's okay. I could come back. You can have that one bad game and it's over. You're done. So, that defense means a lot. And sometimes quarterbacks just don't show up, or sometimes the defense is just that excellent. And on that day, Seattle's defense was just godlike, just like they have been all year. It was just it's truly special
And
how great they were.
to give you some credit for putting them up there, I think we would both agree that Peyton Manning's one of the, in terms of football IQ, is probably one of the smartest quarterbacks, if not the smartest quarterback to play probably ever. Because he knows
Definitely.
those defenses. If those two teams played again, those same teams that same year, and he had tape on Seattle, I think he might have been able to. I don't know if they would have ended up winning, but I think he would have put up a lot more points and exposed them a little bit.
Well, I'll say this. I think that if football was a series, if there was somehow that football was in like a 3-game series or something, and let's just put it in a hypothetical scenario where it's like a 3-game series and players don't get hurt, so everyone's fully healthy each game, okay? I would definitely pick Peyton Manning to win that series. I think he definitely after that first game was game 1, for example. Those next 2 games, Peyton Manning's gonna whoop that ass. I think. I mean, that's just. I'm pretty pretty sure about that. His IQ is like you said. You have him as one of the top. One of the greatest minds. I actually have him as the greatest mind. So I mean, it's really special what they did that day. We gotta, we just gotta give them props for that. Seattle, and we talk about their defense, but one thing we do also need to mention, their offense wasn't bad either.
Yeah, I mean they had beast
Russell,
mode, Russell Wilson. Yeah.
Russell Wilson. You got Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate. I mean, they had a good offense too. They scored 43 points. It wasn't the defense that scored all of it. I think they scored maybe a touchdown or 2, the defense, but that offense definitely put up points too.
Well,
So
I want to say something to your credit, because they did have a good offense, but this was I would say probably 2000. What would you say? 2007 is probably the turning point of when the league became more of a big pass play league.
it was 2007 was I would say 2007 for sure. I mean, it was I'll say this. It started with I think it started with the greatest football on turf, or greatest show on turf. I'm sorry, God. It started with them and the Rams. I think that was the first inkling to it. Because if you remember, 99, 2000, 2001, the Rams dominated as far as MVPs. You had Kurt Warner, who won the MVP in '99, and then they won the Super Bowls. Like the upset, it was crazy. Okay, 2000, their running back Marshall Faulk wins the MVP, and in 2001, Kurt Warner wins the MVP again. So that was like the beginning of like offenses like taking over. It took a little break because the Patriots kill everything. They kill just life itself. Okay, so it slowed down a little bit. And then 2007, when you have, and then you could see it a little bit with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning started to bring it up a little bit because he was like the number one. He was arguably the number one quarterback for those couple of years. And then 2007, it was just like offense just took the door down and just was godlike.
Yeah, but my point was of the Seattle Seahawks is they – I don't want to say they didn't have any big pass plays because they did, but they kind of went back to old school, I'm going to run the ball down your throat, and then I'm going to let my defense do the talking if my offense doesn't get it done. I mean, and I think that's a big reason why they were successful. Marshawn Lynch, he has a beast mode name for a reason. He made plays – play after play there. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with you having the Broncos up there for that reason. Like I said, I just didn't want two teams from the same year in my list.
And that's understandable. And I just would say that's why I picked Seattle over the Broncos, just because they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I was at least respectful in that point. It would have been kind of weird if I had Broncos over them, but yeah. I got you on that. All right, so I said my number 5 and 4. Talk about your number 4, the 2002 Bucks.
So the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as we all know, it was John Gruden was the coach. They went 12-4. They beat his former team, the Oakland Raiders, that year. He had the number one defense, which was dominant. It had some of the most dominant players at their position, probably you could argue in history. You have Rondé Barber, who played forever. John Lynch, Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp's probably one of the best defensive tackles to ever play the game. He didn't take care of his body as long as he should have and didn't play as long as he should have. But in terms of dominance, he was. Derek Brooks is another great player. It's no wonder that team was dominant defensively. And on the offensive side, they had some players, Keyshawn Johnson. He was a wide receiver, had over 1,000-yard season. Mike Allstott, he's a fullback or running back, but I mean, he made big plays. Brad Johnson, who statistically after the season isn't the greatest quarterback to ever play, but he played 13 games that year. He threw 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
And he was a Pro Bowler, if I remember right, too.
Yeah.
He was a Pro Bowler.
So. But yeah, that team defensively was great. Monty Kiffin, defensive coordinator, I believe. Yeah, it was Monty Kiffin. They were in that famous Tampa 2 defense there. So it was just a dominant team. It was fun to watch. Patriots didn't make it Super Bowl that year. So they beat the Raiders, who controversially could have been in the Super Bowl the year before that. So,
well, look, I'm gonna tell you this about that team. So, fun fact. This is a fun fact. A Daddy Fino fun fact for you. Did you know something about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? This is something I actually learned not too long ago while I was researching about teams to put on my list. They were a team that I had on my radar to put on this list. Did you know?
They had a lot of coaches that are coaching in today's league, if that's what you were going to say.
No. You got to think. You got to think bigger than that. You got to think Daddy Fino.
Oh,
Did
okay.
you know the Bucks are one of 3 teams to go to a single Super Bowl and win it?
That's I mean that makes sense now that you said it, but I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah. Did you know also? Do you know the other 2 teams?
Carolina, is it Carolina? No, they went to 2.
Now remember, they went to only 1 Super Bowl
Saints.
Yep, the Saints.
I'm thinking here.
Come on, it's easy. It's super easy. Guess who's asking the question?
Oh, okay, the Jets. Yeah.
Wow, the New
Okay.
York Jets. You know I had to bring that
That
up.
was
But
ancient. That was ancient history.
it
So,
don't matter. We
yeah.
want to Super Bowl. All right, calm your nerves. All right, look. So let's get on to your 2002 Tampa Bay. I like this team. Okay, now we all know that this is a similar situation. Well, not similar. So we all know that this team, although the coach was John Gruden, this was Tony Dungy's team. Okay, uh,
I'll agree with
that
that.
that won the Super Bowl. Was what I was gonna say earlier. It was kind of similar to like what people say. Steve Kerr won the championship with the Warriors. It was um, Mark Jackson's team. It was something similar, but a little bit different. But um, you know, it was the Tampa Bay defense was godlike. It's like you said. You mentioned all the names already. I'm not going to repeat that, but I mean, it's just amazing. The number of Pro Bowlers they had, the number of All Pros they had. I mean, they were pretty damn good. One of the best defensive teams of all time. Um, I'm kind of I'm kind of upset with myself for not putting them up there. Like I said in the beginning, I'm sure I'm sure there's other lists that I could have made that I would probably disagree with also. Because it just depends on how you want to build your team to determine who's better. Um, I'm sure you could put this team against any team in the NFL history and they can win. So there's no question that they should be on this list. Uh, they destroyed the Raiders 48-21. I mean, I agree with you. Every point you've made, I do agree. The only thing that you can say about this team that you can put other teams above them was their offense. Although their offense was it was decent. It wasn't bad or anything, but you Brad Johnson as your quarterback, he wasn't terrible, but it's not like he's great. Uh, all you need, if you have a great defense, you can beat that team, or just even a decent defense. I think you'll be able to beat this team. Just no one was able to do it that year. So I give you props for picking them. Can't disagree too much.
Then your number 4 pick. Oh, okay. It was
My number 3 was the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams. What you feel about that?
I don't have a problem with that being on the top 5 list. You mentioned the names, Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, both great players. Marshall Faulk, one of the better running backs to ever play the game. Was his Torrey Holt the wide receiver then? I can't remember the receivers. Torrey Holt.
It was so you got like Isaac Bruce,
Torrey Holt.
Torrey Holt. I mean, it was pretty much them with Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk. I mean, that was one of the greatest offensive teams just all time. I mean, this was the offensive team that when you look at top teams of all time, this is the one you go to. Offensively, it was pretty great.
Yeah, I agree that that offensively they were a fun team to watch. They lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I believe that was Tom Brady's first Super Bowl, was it not?
It was.
That was a Tuck rule. Was that the first year? Was that the Tuck rule? That the Patriots went to the Super Bowl?
No, wasn't that 2003 against the Raiders?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a great team to watch. I don't have a problem with it being on there. They didn't win the Super Bowl, but that offense got them there. I don't know what their defensive was ranked that year.
So
But
the defense was actually pretty good. It wasn't anything great. It wasn't the Tampa Bay or anything like that, but it was still a really good defense. Definitely held their own. They kept teams. It didn't even really matter about. It really didn't matter what the other team scored because when you have the greatest offense at the time, it didn't really matter. But for most part, they kept teams really low in points. I'm looking at about, I would say about 17 points a game, which isn't, it's not great, but it's not terrible. So it's about middle of the road. But you pick this team for the offense, and that's why I did. I just thought that, it's one of the greatest offenses that we've all seen, and that's just pretty much it. They had a lot of Pro Bowls on that team, several All Pros, like Orlando Pace, Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner. Great team. It was a great team.
They were an offensive juggernaut for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my number 3 team was your number 4 team. And then number 2, you had the 2007 Indianapolis Colts.
Yes, sir.
Is that the year Peyton Manning beat the Bears, or was that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. It is the 2000. It is the year he beat the Bears. That was pretty much all right. So we both have the same number 1. Okay, so we could just go ahead and mention it. So this Peyton Manning's year. This was a career year for Peyton Manning, but it was so great, but it just didn't compare to what Brady did. But he just had it was overshadowed. But it was pretty damn amazing what he did this year. God, it was hard to explain. I wish. How about you? You go ahead and you just tell me what you think about it. You tell me what you think about it.
So, Peyton Manning won his Super Bowl over the Bears, who kind of like a lot of the teams on my list had great defenses, but not great offenses. Rex Grossman was their quarterback, crying out loud. And if my memory serves me correctly, they demolished the Bears in the Super Bowl, didn't they? I think the Bears only scored once, and that was on like a Devin Hester return.
Yes.
Peyton Manning had a great year that year. I don't think anybody's going to question that. He had, Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. Was Dallas Clark his tight end? I don't have the roster in front of me, but from memory anyway, I know that those two were on the team.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you can overshadow that either. But the Indianapolis Colts, they were good. They were a good team. I actually think that he won in 2006, though. Now that I think about it.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it too. Wait, I think I said 2007. I'm sorry, I meant 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the year I'm thinking. I wrote the wrong year. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just was thinking about it, and I was like, wait a minute. But
Yeah, wait, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I completely messed that up. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I said 2007. 2006 is the year I'm talking about. They won the Super Bowl that year. He was 31. He had 31 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He threw for about 4,400 yards. This was the year his defense. He actually had a defense this year. He always had great players on defense. He had the Dwight Freeneys of the world, the Robert Mathises of the world. But he didn't have that collective group to actually, just stick it to it and play defense. I mean, he's always had to do it on him, on his own and just guide the offense. But sometimes, you need that defense. Definitely in the playoffs, it's like you said earlier, defense wins championships. And he finally did have it. And as you saw, and as you talked about in the Super Bowl, they destroyed the Bears. Um, and he got his first Super Bowl. He was Super Bowl MVP. Uh, Peyton Manning, uh, just he's just truly amazing. I love Peyton Manning. It's hard to really talk bad about the man. I know a lot of people like to, shit on him sometimes because his playoff record isn't perfect. Um, I think he's only like 14. He's like barely over 500 in the playoffs, but I think one thing that we can't deny is that he's one of the greatest of all time.
uh,
And I think
and I think to your point, he's the only quarterback to ever take two different teams to the Super Bowl and win. So
yeah, that is true. What was it? The 2015
yep,
when they beat the Carolina Panthers.
yep.
So yeah, I mean, although he wasn't like the main reason they won that game, I don't think they would have won that game without him. But that's just me. Uh, Hey man, he's a special guy, man. He's just I wish one day that my team could get a quarterback that's even half as good. So yeah.
So with all that being said, um, I don't know if I put that team necessarily in my top 5. I would probably put it in my top 10. Um, I don't know if I'd put it number 2. Definitely. Um, I think what he did in Denver was more impressive, but he had a little bit better defensive team unit in Denver. So I'll give you credit for that because you did mention he had good players in Indy, but not
Well,
a unit.
yeah, they did go 12-4. So it's not like in Denver. In Denver, they only won 13-3. So it wasn't like it was a huge.
So my problem with the Indianapolis Colts is that division is kind of, I think, the worst, or at that time was one of the worst divisions in football because, I mean, the Titans were not good. Um, the Jaguars, I don't even remember who their quarterback was. And then the Texans had just, I believe, I don't remember when the Texans became the Texans. They were a new team, but I can't remember when. I'm sure they were in the league by then.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean that division, it was a cakewalk for Peyton Manning for a while, and I'm not using that to discredit what he did. I just think Denver Broncos and that division was a lot harder than the division he came from. So I would actually, if I were you, I'd flip flop those. I would probably put this at the bottom of my list and your other Denver team ahead of it, but that's really my only argument against that team. But then we can talk about my number 2 team, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. And and like the Buccaneers, they had a lot of great defensive players. They had they got in the wild card. They actually didn't win their division this year. Well, I think they actually did win their division. They just weren't the number 1 or number 2 seed. I can't remember, but I know that they had to play through the wild card, so they actually played 3 games to get to the Super Bowl where they beat the Giants. This team had Jamal Lewis, Ray Lewis, Rod Woodson, players like that. And this is kind of like when Ray Lewis was just now coming onto the scene. They had Shannon Sharp.
Yep.
In this, and I know I'd mentioned a lot of defensive teams. This was kind of, I think, at the time considered one. Like, I think this one kind of set the record for defense. And they were actually very good defensively for a few years after this. They were a hard team to beat. I don't know how many defensive turnovers they averaged on their way to the Super Bowl, but I know that they just beat everybody down bad. The most anybody that scored on them in the playoffs that year was 10 points. And in the NFL, if you could score more, if your defense can hold the other team to 10 points, I would say you have a pretty good shot at winning almost every game. So, like I said, dominant defense. There's really not a lot to be said. This is a team where their defense literally did win them a championship because I don't know if you remember right, but they were actually flip-flopping between quarterbacks, and Trent Dilfer actually, won the Super Bowl with them. And I don't think I need to mention Trent Dilfer's name because I don't want to discredit the Ravens, but Trent Dilfer was terrible. The worst statistical quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. But yeah, that's why I have him at number 2. Just this team was probably, I don't know who had the better team, this team or the 2002 Buccaneers when you talk about defensively. But this was hard for me to where I put this team, but I had to put them in my top 5.
Well, I got to say, though, I do agree with you on this. And in fact, I wish I can change my list because I feel really stupid. You see, when we said from 2000 and now, for some reason, I just overlooked the year 2000. I don't know why. I started from 2001. I would have put this team on my list, and I probably would have put them maybe 3. Probably be 3 on my list, actually. This was a great – so the Ravens, just like you said, I mean, it is one of the best statistically greatest statistical defense of all time. A lot of people, I'm not sure a lot of people would rank them as far as the best defense. But I mean, if you think about it, the only people that can argue are better than this defense is the Steel Curtain and probably like the like the Purple People Eaters. So I mean, those are when you have nicknames like that, that's really the only way you could be better than this team. If I remember right, wasn't this is the Rex Ryan defense, correct?
Rex Ryan wasn't the defensive coordinator, but he was a coach. I think defensive line. I actually think Marvin Lewis, believe it or not, was the defensive coordinator.
Okay, so Marvin Lewis. Okay. So even still, I mean, this was you can't even. This defense was just so stingy with it. I mean, they didn't even allow – I think you mentioned it. They didn't allow more than 10 points. They didn't even allow a touchdown in the Super Bowl, which that's the first time that's ever happened. So all the superstar players that they had on the defensive side of the ball, you had Ray Lewis, you He was NFL Defensive Player of the Year that year. You know, I, four. I think they had like four games that year where they just shut out the opponent and just killed them. You know, this was a great defense, and although their offense was, I would say their offense was pretty terrible, even with Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp was at the end of his career. Um, he the only catches he caught were touchdowns, in fact. So I mean, at least that's what it feels like, you know. So you got to give them credit for that. They only allowed 10 points a game that whole year. Um, only they barely over 200 yards a game. That's definitely that's definitely worthy of this list for sure.
And I don't know. I think they only they averaged as a defense. They averaged all season was like 60 yards per game on the ground, which is incredible. I
Yeah.
don't think another team has, and maybe I'm wrong. And if someone's listening, they know for sure. Let me know. But I'm pretty sure that no team has ever averaged that again. They've been close, but I don't think in terms of rushing the ball, any team has ever matched this team as in terms of yards allowed. So
It tells how great those Ravens team. I mean, this Ravens team, although that particular year they were, one of the greatest ever, that those players trickled down, for the years to come. Even to today, the Ravens defense has always been, the Ravens defense is still to be respected, and I think it goes back to that day, that year. I mean, you know, they build off of that year, and they just continue and continue to just be one of the most dominant teams of this, of our lifetime right now. Um, it's because of that team. I feel like they just kept going and kept focusing on defense. Ravens, they're not known for being an offensive team even now. I know they have Lamar Jackson now, and maybe that'll change, but they're always going to be a defensive oriented team. You think Ravens, you think defense, and we got to thank the 2000 Ravens for that. So,
yeah. And then, do we want to
number one,
say
have
what we like about number one? Yeah, we have the same team.
Number one.
Yep.
So
I'll let you go first because I know you love talking about the Patriots.
Well, yeah, I have a lot to say about the Patriots. I do. One thing I can't deny, is just how great this team was. I mean, we said that about every team on this list, and I hate to repeat myself, but at the same time, you got to be honest. This is the greatest offense of all time, and their defense was pretty good too. This team was undefeated in the regular season. It was the second team to ever do that. Although they went 18-1 overall. When they were undefeated, they're the first team to go 16-0. Because I think Miami only went 14-0 or 12-0 or something like that when they went undefeated.
It was 14.
14-0. What was it in the regular season? Was it 14-0 or was it 14-0 total?
I don't know. I don't know on that one. I know they went 14-0. So
okay. But either way, so technically, they didn't go undefeated for the whole year, but they did go undefeated in the regular season. And they did it by just terrorizing. I mean, just terrorizing everyone's defense. They're actually the first team that ever scored 34 points in the first 8 games of a season. It was pretty damn amazing. I think they scored over 34 points in 11 of 16 of their games. I mean, that's just crazy. Tom Brady at the time broke the record at 50 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He had Randy Moss getting 1,400 yards, but he had 23 touchdowns himself, catching 23 touchdowns. Welker Welker had like 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Their run game was good because they had that was Lawrence Maroney.
They
Was
had a couple
it?
different running backs. Sammy
Yeah,
Morris, Kevin Falk. They had a couple different.
I was for some reason I wasn't sure if Corey Dillon was there, but that was later. I think that was later.
No,
Um,
it was before. Corey Dillon was on the 04 team.
well, that was the 014. Okay, so I knew he was on that team. I couldn't remember which one. But yeah, I mean, that it was the Randy Moss and Brady connection was just amazing. Um, it's one of it's arguably the greatest tandem in football ever. You got Montana, Jerry Rice. I mean, you got Marvin Harrison and Peyton. Those are like the top three, at least off the top of my head. Um, and it was just so special. And I mentioned the defense before. They had a bunch of all pro players that year. I think they had like 4 all pro players on the defensive side of the football. Asante Samuel, Mike Verbo. I
Vince
think they had
Wilfork.
Vince Wilfork. So they had it was both sides. They just happened to run into the Giants defense, who they just learned the strategy of how to beat them.
Pretty much had
And
terrorized Tom Brady. So
yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's really the only way. They done it twice. They did it. What was it? 2 years later, they did it.
uh,
Um,
I think it was in
there's some-
2012. No, 2000. Yeah, somewhere around there. It was five
okay,
years
so it was about 4 or 5 years later. Okay, so I mean, it took that to happen. Plus, what people call as a miracle, the miracle throw by Eli. So you
Sorry,
know,
Christian.
I
That's what it
mean,
was.
I'm not. Look, after that game, I cried, because I was so happy for the Giants. I was, I, I cried like a baby. I remember I was walking my dog, um, R.I.P. Jeannie. Um, I was walking her, and I remember crying as I was walking her because it was just right after the game, and I was just so happy and I couldn't control my emotions. Um, and this was that was 2007, so that was 12 years ago. I was like 14. So, it was just a very, very special, special day when they lost. But overall, I mean, you can't say enough about how great that team was. And I'll let you, continue, continue that.
Um, so just off of kind of carry on what you said, the amount of points they scored that season, it is one of the greatest offenses I've ever seen, if not the greatest. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule. 1, 2, 3, 4 games they scored more than 48 points, and then they scored over 38 or over 30 points several more times. This is probably, this is kind of a little bitter sweet to be put on this list, but it's kind of a big disappointment that they didn't finish the season undefeated with the Super Bowl win. Um, you know, they were big favorites to beat the Giants. And like we already said, the Giants pass rush got to Brady. Eli made 2 good throws, one to Tyree, the helmet catch, and then he threw the touchdown to Plexico to beat him. Yeah, you can't deny anything. I mean, the Moss or the Brady to Moss connection that year was good, and there was only a few other. I think there was a couple quarterback receiver duos that year that were close, but they couldn't top them. yeah, this team is definitely probably the most dominant team in terms of scoring points. They played the Cowboys that year, and that was actually a year where the Cowboys offense was good, and they destroyed the Cowboys. They beat them like 48-24 or 27, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tom Brady threw for like 450 yards. I think this is really the team, to your point earlier, that since the greatest show on turf, this team was really what took it off into a huge pass-happy league. I think that's where you see all the big pass plays come from this offense, or they're trying to replicate this offense. I'm trying to see, other than Randy Moss, he kind of had average talent around him as far as the wide receivers go. So it's Randy Moss did his thing, and Brady did his thing.
He had Wes Welker. He had Wes Welker, Gaffney, Dante Stallworth. So I mean, he didn't have no big names, but they had names that they knew how to do their jobs. And I mean, isn't that typical for Patriots?
Yeah,
No big names, but they just know how to do their jobs. And as long as you do your job, they're gonna win.
And let's be real, the Patriots have had some big name receivers after Moss, or they had potential to be big receivers, and they didn't make the cut. I mean, Randy Moss is the only one that stuck around and performed.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Brady seems to be better without big names. Obviously he had Randy Moss and he went off, but every other big name, or at least close to a big name, like you said, it's just not. It's not to that level of Moss. And they actually seem to win Super Bowls when they don't have those names. So, I that's just a credit to Brady. I think that's why we both had Brady as our number one quarterback ever. Well, not ever, but in our 2000, our first ranking.
I would put him as ever, but that's not.
Yeah, when we ranked him number one since 2000, we both had him number one. I mean, it's because of seasons like this. I mean, we got to give props to Brady for that, even though we hate to do it. And I'll tell you this, though. Based off our list, though, I am real shocked that we didn't have more Patriots teams.
And that's the thing. I think you could have put more Patriots teams on the list, because I think that they did great things with a lot less talent. But I don't think any other Patriots teams would have come close to beating this one. Even the 04 team, and they were really good. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I don't know if I would put a team above this team. I'm not saying that, but I would say that, we can argue that, that you could put them against any other team on our list. As great as the Ravens defense was, for example, if Brady had played that defense, I'm curious as to what would have happened. Maybe he could have destroyed them, and he could, I wish there was a way we can have them go head to head. But, unfortunately we can't do that. But I'm sure that there's several other Patriots teams that even people that are listening right now, they would definitely put in this list. Just for example, the 2010 Patriots. We mentioned the 2004 Patriots, 2010 Patriots. The 2010 one, they went 14-2 that year. That was a great team. Now, they did lose in the playoffs to Mark Sanchez in the New York Jets. But
when we mention football, you got to slip his name in. We had a good thing going.
But that's a team that we can mention. The 2010 Patriots deserve credit. They were a great team.
You gotta okay, it's fun.
It's just unfortunate that they lost to Mark Sanchez. But it's cool. It is what it is. Shout out to Mark Sanchez. we're huge fans. Hope you
We're
tune
we're,
in.
we're not.
Hope to have you as
Yeah.
a guest one day. But let's see what other teams we could. We could have the Patriots that just won the Super Bowl. The one that beat the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, not Atlanta Hawks. Goddamn, the Atlanta Falcons. He came back down 24-3. We can have that team on this list. I mean, that was a great team. Didn't they go 14-2 also, or 13-3?
Yeah, they were.
You
I
know,
mean, yeah.
and they had a great team all year. That's a team that you can argue to be on this list. There's a bunch of Patriots teams. They've just been dominant forever, it feels like. And I'm sure they'll continue to be dominant until Brady retires. There's several Colts teams, for example, I think we could have put on this list. I mentioned the 2016, but the 2017 was good too. They actually won 13-3 that year. They lost to Patriots in the AFC Championship game. So there's several teams that have multiple selections. We just chose the one that we believe was the better one. So,
And like you said earlier, it depends on how you went. And I guess we should clarify that we didn't share our teams before we started, so you didn't know I was going defense, and I didn't know you were going offense. It just happened to be that way. So
right, yeah, that's true. I mean, I went, and the thing is too, I went with offense because I guess the way I think of it too, defense does win championships in football, and that's the case. And for some reason, I mean, I guess I just didn't think that way. I thought more about today's football, versus the past. I feel like offense has taken over the league, and that seems to be how you do win now. But
it is worth mentioning that some of my older teams that the 2000, 2002, the 2004, the league has changed, like you said, so much that now it's, if you don't have a potent offense who can score a lot and score quickly, that oftentimes that nowadays beats a defense. So to your credit, that is true.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. JT, I got to say though, you've learned a lot, man. You have a lot. I've seen you grow from episode 1 to now. I want to take full credit for that. I'm sure the people listening will agree with me. Because I would honestly say this might be the first time you have a shot at beating me, and as far as lists.
Well,
I said in the beginning, you had the advantage because I questioned my list from the beginning, but there's a shot.
Is that are you admitting defeat finally?
No. I said I think my list is better. I'm just saying I think that this is the first time you were close. I'm giving you the props for that, man.
Okay, I appreciate it.
I'm sure all the Daddy Fino fans out there are, they kind of were like, oh wait, did JT almost catch up to him? And then they were like, wait, we talk about JT, and they laughed. So it was like that. But I do give you props, man. I am proud of you.
I give you props for only mentioning Mark Sanchez one time. So,
well, I think it's gonna be. I think that's my thing now. I'm gonna mention like in every chance I get. Like I'm gonna mention. Didn't I mention him in the basketball ranking somehow?
Yeah, I think so. But
so I'm gonna mention Mark Sanchez in like everything. I don't know how, but that's gonna be my thing.
I'm real surprised that you didn't have a Jets team up here.
Well, I'll be honest. I will be honest. I did. I originally did. I had the 2010 team. And this was the team that beat the Patriots. For those that don't, so while we're talking about, let's talk about teams that should have been on the list. Honorable mentions. I had the 2010 Jets on the team, on my list. I mean, because if you remember right, they led the league in rushing, and they had the number one defense. Um, it's hard to argue that they obviously were a really great team. They lost to Peyton Manning of all people. So, I mean, at least we lost to a great quarterback. We didn't lose to Tom Brady. We lost to an actual great quarterback. So, yeah, I definitely think he deserves the Jets deserve to be an honorable mention. They're not going to get the credit because we're the Jets, but it's, it is what it is. How about you?
I had a couple teams on here. I had, the Saints the year they won the Super Bowl. They had a very, very good team.
That was the 2008 Saints, right?
2008 or 2009.
Okay.
It depends on when they won the Super Bowl.
I remember watching their first game. That's why I remember that the block punt and all that scoring. I remember watching that like it was yesterday.
And then, I'm going to be a little biased, but I actually think the 2014 Cowboys. The 2014 Cowboys.
And this is the Fino Flash podcast.
Okay. The 2014 Cowboys, I think, had a real shot at going to the Super Bowl. That was the controversial Dez caught it, didn't caught it. They went 12-4. Romo had his.
Okay, hold on. Can we at least have a rule that you have to at least win a playoff game to be on this list? I mean, they didn't even win a playoff game. You can't put them on the.
They won. They beat the Lions right the week before that.
Did they? You sure about that? Is that that?
Yes. That was a controversial game too because they picked up the pass interference call, but they still won. But they had the fifth best offense and like I think the best defense Romo ever had at like 15.
What year is this?
2014.
Okay, continue.
Marco Murray rushed for 1,800 yards. Dez balled out. He had 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns. I'm not going to say they'd win the Super Bowl, but that was a dominating year. And if you're going to bring up the Jets, I'm going to bring up the Cowboys. I wasn't going to until you brought up the Jets.
Well, first off, at least we made AFC Championship game, and at least we lost on the final possession. Like, come on now. I mean,
you lost on a review.
Okay,
so
what do you even make it to the championship game? Like, we made it to the championship game. Like, come on now. And we were the wild card, and we beat the Patriots in Foxborough. We were
gonna be Aaron Rodgers. If they would have called that a catch, which it was. I mean, even all the analysts afterwards said
Aaron Rodgers or the GOAT. I mean, like, come on now. Like, really? Come on now. Like, really?
According to you, he's number 3 on your list. So
the greatest. That's since 2000. That's not since all time.
Okay. Well, if you can bring up the Jets and Mark Sanchez. That I'm out of line.
They made it to the AFC Championship game.
But I'm not out of line bringing up a 12-4 team. No, I'm not because they were a catch away from going to the NFC Championship game.
No, they weren't. They were still, first off, even if he caught the pass and they called it a touchdown.
There was a minute and like 12 seconds left. It was less than 2 minutes left, and Aaron Rodgers was hurt on a bum leg. The defense.
Aaron Rodgers would have got it done. Okay, so I don't even care.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers would have got it done. Let's not just sit there and say that cost you the game. We literally lost on the last play of the game.
Okay. Well, if you can mention the Jets, then I wasn't gonna mention the Cowboys, but you made it
further. We made it further, but whatever. It's okay. It's all good. I mean, whatever. It's your list. You make your list. I made mine. Um, yeah, we'll just leave it at that, JT.
We will.
Because we're arguing more about teams that didn't make the list.
That's true.
So let's just stay on topic, I guess. But overall, I think our lists were pretty good. You know, we had some similarities, and even though we had some differences, we actually agreed on those differences. So, you know, it wasn't as confrontational as I thought it would be, but
Well, like I
it
said,
was still, I think, a good episode. I think it was
oh,
a
yeah.
good chat, good rankings from both sides. You know, what you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a. I thought we agreed a lot more than we were going to. I really did think you were going to put those, that 2010 Jets team in there. I really did. So I had ammo for that. I had ammo for that. But
Well, the thing is, you don't. I hate to we're not going to argue about it. I'm just going to say this. You can't argue against the number one defense and number one offense. I mean, number one run offense in the league. I mean, you can't argue against that. There's nothing you can do to argue against that. Even if you try to talk bad about Mark Sanchez, I can talk bad about Brad Johnson. I can talk bad about who's the guy? I can talk bad about Joe Flacco if I wanted to. But dang, there was another. Who's the other one that got carried?
Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
I could talk about Trent Dilfer. You know, so but you can't mention quarterback because that would be retarded. But it doesn't matter. Uh, we're gonna move on. We'll save any of your other answers that you're thinking about for another show. We'll probably save. I want you to save that for the episode where Mark Sanchez is our guest.
Okay. I welcome it.
I tell you this right now. If you disrespect Mark Sanchez in front of Mark Sanchez on our show when we one day have him, because I will make that happen.
Listen.
I swear, JT, you disrespect Mark Sanchez.
I'm a nice guy. I would never disrespect anybody.
I'm coming after you.
I would never but I would let him know how it is. So
you better respect he was the biggest free agent pickup you guys ever had. Let's just say that.
I mean, but was
Name
he?
quarterback you had in the last
Running
15
into his
years.
offensive lineman backside more than he was for winning football games.
Say this, JT, and we can end it on this. Name a quarterback in the last 20 years that the Dallas Cowboys had that has more playoff wins than Mark Sanchez. Thank you. Come again.
Here we go.
And this is the Daddy Fino Flash podcast. I'm Daddy Fino. He's JT Flash. And we're out of here. Peace.